family. It's great to see all of you. Man, it feels like I haven't seen you guys all year. Classic. Tough crowd. No, but I'm really excited to be back with you guys in this beautiful Alaska cold. I can seriously say we missed the cold a lot, so it's very refreshing to be home. So before we get started today, I wanted to share a scripture for contribution, and as this year we're going to be talking about treasure and stuff like that, and being in the Philippines over the last couple of weeks, really seeing what people value in their life and how they place what they care about and what their life is all about. So I wanted to share Matthew 6:19 for contribution today. Do not store up for yourselves treasure on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves a treasure in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So in this new year, I just hope that we're going in with the heart of, man, I want to store up treasure in heaven. And just coming from this HVC and seeing the hearts of the people there in the Philippines and where their treasure is at was really convicting to me, because they were just literally what they had, you saw it, and what they didn't, they just didn't. And it was just, they gave it their all every single day to God, and the disciples there were amazing. And it was super cool to see how they lived that way without any really valuables or treasures in their possession. So yeah, I'm just going to pray for the contribution, and then we'll get started. Lord, I thank you for just giving us the opportunity to be together, Lord, and just keeping us safe and bringing us back to our family here in Anchorage, Alaska, God. It's a completely different world up here, and I'm just, just so thankful that I get to be part of this community and this family, and that we just get to worship you tonight, God. And I just pray that you bless this contribution and help just us trust you with our treasure, God, and that knowing that you will use it for amazing and powerful things here in the community and around the world, God. And I just pray for everyone speaking tonight, that you just speak through us and that we can encourage our family. And amen. Okay, so now for the funnest part, which is the GLCC minutes. All right, so there is a baby brewing. If you guys didn't know, there's going to be a baby shower this Saturday, January the 11th, from 12 to 2 at the Zox house. And this is going to be the baby shower for baby Tu'ulaulu. Yeah! JT squared. All right. Yeah, so be there to encourage them. Contact Sierra or Josephine with any questions. Their phone numbers are up there. And you can visit babylist.com/Tu'ulaulu 2020. Just look that up so you don't mess it up. All right. So there's that. All right. And then bridal shower for KJ at Uncle Leroy's Coffee Shop on the 16th from 7 to 9 p.m. And then contact Josephine if you have any questions with that one. All right, and then don't forget to RSVP to Devin and Morgan's wedding. All right, that is coming up. All right, so please do that sooner than later, or now. Do that now. Do that now. And then their registries at Zola.com, wedding Morgan and Devin. All right, so don't forget, sign up. It's going to be awesome. I heard the DJs are going to be great too. What? By Sunday. By Sunday. All right, here's a little schedule of 2020 so far. So if you haven't seen this yet, check it out. There's a lot of actually awesome things happening. So yeah, 2 weddings back to back. We've got the Change Retreat coming up. So please check that out. It's going to be a great time. Then we're going to have the World Discipleship Summit, as well as the men's retreat and the women's retreat right before that. So start marking those off, because the men's retreat is going to be me and the boys. So, bring the kids. It's going to be great. It's going to be a weekend away with the kids, so bring them too. So make sure you guys mark that off. And then the Fairbanks anniversary service, we're going to go to Fairbanks in September. So mark your calendars. We're going to go bring Anchorage to Fairbanks. Yeah, it's going to be great. The real Alaskans are coming. And that's pretty much it for now. All right, there is, again, the 5-year celebration. I wish I knew that was there. Good. September 19th through the 20th, that's when we're going to be there. All right, and that is it. So without further ado, we're going to bring up Nadiri. So she just came back from the Hope Volunteer Corps in Africa, and she's going to share a little bit about her experience.
Okay. So, as you know, I went to Africa for Christmas. It's kind of a last-minute decision, but God really opened up the doors, and then I was able to fundraise and get there. So, when I was there, I was like really nervous to go at first, but then I was crying at the airport, and my tickets weren't working. But then once I got to Chicago, I met my friend Marina. She ended up being my roommate, and we're now best friends. So something that was really impactful for me on this trip was just, even though I was there to serve them, the church there was always serving me, and even the people on that trip were always just serving me instead. So I was on the painting team to paint the classrooms there. And I was also the youngest and the tiniest person there. So I was trying to lift up these giant paint buckets, and all the brothers were like, "Oh, no, you're not allowed to lift those up." And I was like, "No, it's okay, I want to do it." And they're like, "No, you're not allowed to." And then they would always give me the smaller areas to paint, so I wouldn't have to climb up on the ladder and get hurt. But aside from that, I was just always being served, which was so amazing to me because I was there to serve. And then on Christmas Day, people from the Zambian church, they invited us to their homes for Christmas dinner, which was so amazing because they were inviting totally random strangers into their homes, and they cooked us meals and they gave us stuff. And then they just shared with us, and they really wanted to get to know us, which was just so cool. Because, and after that, I started crying because I was just so emotional after that, because it was just so amazing to me. And then I ended up becoming really close friends with one of the brothers from that family. And then another thing that was just really impactful to me during that trip was the kids. They served me also in so many ways. On Christmas, when we were handing out the presents, they wanted to give me things also. When we were having snacks in our tea break, they all gave me cups of juice and crackers when I already had lots. One of the little girls, they gave me a cracker, and then all the other kids had to give me a cracker too. And it was really cute because I had plenty of food to eat, and I had a plate full of crackers after that, but they just wanted to give me more and more. And then despite having so little, everyone just wanted to give me so much. And then they would give me presents just after having a conversation. They're like, "You inspire me so much." And I'm like, "Oh, wow." And then the thing that stuck with me the most was definitely the friendships I made. So before this trip, I prayed every day about getting at least one new best friend. And on this trip, I got so many new best friends. So I stayed in a room with 3 other girls. They're 19 and 20. And I was the youngest, and they took care of me so much. And then the brothers also, because on the first few days of the trip, I got pretty sick. I had a cold, and then somehow one of the brothers found out about that, and he gave me the medicine that his mom packed for him. And then I was better after that. And then this other lady, she gave me her essential oils to put on my mosquito bites, and it worked actually. But the friendships I made there were just so amazing to me because I was able to just be really vulnerable with him, which was just so amazing. And during the long bus rides, we really opened up and shared so much about our lives together. And I realized I have a lot in common with them, which was so amazing. And it was more than I could have ever dreamed of on this trip, because these people, they really wanted to get to know me for who I am and why I was there and what I wanted to become. And so I became best friends with 4 of the other girls, and then I was basically their little sister and they were my older sisters. And we already planned to go to 2020 together. We booked our room today. But for those of you who are considering going on a hope trip, I definitely recommend it. I'm already planning to go on more.
Come on.
But these friendships I made, they were just so incredible to me. Like, I have never met anyone who wanted to get to know me the second they met me. Like, they were already asking me like why I was a disciple and how I became a disciple, why I was there, and I was like, oh wow, there's no awkward phase. And so that was just so amazing to me, and being able to share my faith with everyone there. I'm kind of rambling, but there's just so much to share, and I'm running out of time, but it was just the most amazing experience ever, and I never thought I would be doing it, but I'm going to do more now.
Come on.
But if you want to know more about it, I posted it on my Facebook, and I'm totally willing to share more later. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Nadiri. That's awesome and super encouraging. Oh, hi, Joe. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, Artie and I, today we're going to talk about the introduction to Ruth, but before we also wanted to share some of our trip from the Philippines. Shane and Luke Engel put together this video just for the Hope Corps and then the church there. So Artie's going to pull that up. Could someone get the lights?
Good afternoon. My name is Renee, and I'm the evangelist from the Great Land Christian Church, here because I wanted to build houses and fix things and help and serve the poor and the needy here in the Philippines. And we started out that way, and it had been fantastic. And then on Tuesday, Christmas Eve, a typhoon hit, and everything changed. We're going to the houses of the disciples who were affected by the typhoon.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you get burned out higher, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Ooh, no. all day. And I'll rise like the day. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, I like the waves. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. The silence is quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like I'm dying, but I promise we'll take the world to a dream. And the mountain really draws me. I'm dead. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. All we need is hope. And for that we have each other. And for that we have each other. And we will rise, we will rise, we will rise. We'll rise. I'll rise up, rise like the day, rise up. In spite of the ache, I will rise 1,000 times again. And we'll rise up, I like the waves, we'll rise up. In spite of the ache, we'll rise up. And we'll do it 1,000 times again.
Cool. So yeah, we just wanted to share the video that Shane and Luke put together. They did an awesome job capturing just the different projects that we did and then the people that we were able to connect with and meet. And so we just wanted to share a few things that we took away from it that we hope to implement now that we're home and we're back. Because they had mentioned that we've never been on an HBC as participants, but it can be very easy to get caught up in the feelings and the emotions when you're there and then go back and then just kind of go back to normal life instead of really taking what you've learned and putting it into action. And that was something that we prayed a lot about before going, was that we wanted to not just go and have this awesome experience, but we wanted to make changes here and in our own lives. And so some of the things that stood out to me that really impacted me was from one of the devos that one of the staff members shared about how the way that we live here is not how most people live in the rest of the world. because we were going into town and we were seeing all the prices of things, and because of the way that the money transfers over, everything there seems so inexpensive to us. And so we kept being like, oh my gosh, it's so cheap, it's so inexpensive, but it's not to them. It is to us because of how things are here, but we can get very caught up in like our own world and forget that other people around the world live very differently than us. And then he connected it with Jesus and how Jesus was not a glamorous person. Like, he was born in a manger. Who knows if he actually wore shoes, or like, you know, his shoes were like probably like, you know, sandals, and he didn't have a consistent home. He was always on the go. He doesn't stress about how he's going to eat or like what he's going to do other than love and serve people. Jesus didn't live for comfort, and comfortability doesn't build character. And we learned that really quick, because when we first got there, you know, the rooms that we're in were different than some of the other rooms because there were two different places we were staying. But they had AC that would turn on when you had like your key connected like in the room. And then they had like, you know, they had showers, and we were like, oh, okay, well, like, yeah, it's hot and it's humid and it's gonna be hard, but at least we'll be able to shower and like go to bed in a cool room. And so it was kind of like, you know, best of both worlds. And then as you saw, the typhoon happened like on our third day, and then power went out. And it was really easy for us to be like, oh, now it's going to be hot and sticky and we're going to be uncomfortable. And so then you kind of like feel yourself not wanting to work as hard, because you know you're not going to be able to shower, you know you're not going to be able to be comfortable later. And so then that's when like prayer happens. You're like, no, I came here for like a bigger purpose than to just be comfortable and to just do what I'm doing in a different place. Like I want to be different, and I want to be changed. And so I think it's the same thing that stood out to me was what stood out to Nadiri, just about the love that we received while we were there. Because we came to serve and learn from the community, but the community served us. Like, even with the storm and everything around us changing, like all the plans that they had to like care for us and feed us and make sure that we were taken care of didn't change. Like, they didn't skip a beat. And so I don't know, I just thought about how I would wake up, you know, Christmas morning here, like if my house had been completely destroyed, I'd be grumpy. I'd be like, well, now I have to clean up my house and I have to rebuild. But everyone was like, you know, they're like, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And I'm like, what? Like, they're just so happy and so joyful, and they were so excited to love us and help us even. All the kids were excited to garden with us. And, you know, they would like push me out of the way so they could do it. And I don't know, it was just so encouraging to just see the joy and the dedication that the people had there. And I think that's something that that I really want to implement in my everyday life is following the scriptures when it talks about finding joy in all things and all situations. And I think one of the other big things that stood out was that the impact that we make is not based on how big or small a project that we accomplished is. The impact that we make is based on like our love for others and our love for God. And so we don't have to travel internationally to make a big difference or to make a big impact. We can do that right where we are. It's awesome to have those opportunities, and I'm grateful, and I hope I get to do it again. But what they taught us there was it is really truly about the heart and about how you love people, and then everything else around you is going to work itself out. And then the last thing that I wanted to share, because I could talk forever about this, is that I was able to sit down on a Bible study on one of the girls that Artie will mention more about later, but I was able to sit down on a Bible study with her, and it was so faith building because they have their own set of challenges where they're at, and very different than what we have here, and then some similar. But it was so cool to see a different culture like saying the same things that we say in our Bible studies, or like just reading the same word, asking the same questions, but it was so heartfelt and meaningful. And I was like, man, like, this is so different. These people are different, the culture's different, the challenges are different, but God is not different. God is the same everywhere we go. And to me, I was like, that, like, I would love to go through all those hardships again to experience, like, to just remember that. And I don't want to ever forget that feeling of like, it doesn't matter who you're around or who you're with, like, God is the same everywhere. Yeah, so I think that's all I got.
The thing that really stuck out to me the most is, and that inspired me, is the disciples in Danbatayan and their resilience. And their just ability to overcome. So as you guys saw, that typhoon was the 21st of the year that they had. And just like Mari said, they weren't like affected by it in the way like that I think most of us would be affected at such a serious loss of things, right? But the disciples there, that is their life every day. They don't live in comfort or luxury. They don't, they don't have necessarily the clean water or the good food or reliable dry housing all the time. And they're constantly rebuilding, yet they had so much joy in their hearts. And when you talk to them and when they share their faith, like that's not a stumbling block in their life. It was just another part of life. It was like, oh no, that's fine. Like that's just God's power on display. It wasn't like, oh, God's really trying to like show me that I'm messing up and like he's taking all this stuff away from me. But no, like the disciples like, no, that's God's power. This is fine. Like these are things. This isn't a big deal. But here they are, like their house is crushed. There was a disciple who was on the HVC whose name is Mirame, and she is from Zambia, and she got sponsored to come on the trip, and her home was destroyed. But she didn't go home to, fix her home or whatever. She stayed and served with us and served the other disciples that their houses were destroyed and helped clean up the community and build gardens and build pig pens and do all this other stuff. And it's crazy because, if it was me, I'd be like, hey, I'm going to go. Like, I got to go take care of my family or something. I don't know. But, like, they weren't fazed by it. And, like, coming home right now, I'm just like, man, how would I act if God would suddenly take away all the things that are comfortable to me right now, whether that's a vehicle or a house or a job or having, stable heat or a stable home? Like, would I still be faithful and joyful? And it just made me really think about that and truly think about how I'm going to surrender that in the future and this next year or so. And for life, like, how am I going to be content in all situations, like Mari said? And then also to see the impact that the local church is making there in Zambia was super cool because their whole church model is based off of the Hope Center, essentially. So the way they reach out to people, the way they meet people is through the Hope Center. So they run a daycare and like a school out of there. And there was a girl there, and her name was Jing. And when we first met her, we thought she was a disciple. We didn't ask, but she was a servant right out the gate, just really getting involved, helping everyone. And then, I don't know how it came up, but somebody's like, oh no, she's not a disciple. Her little brother goes to the daycare here, and she's been having conversations with the staff and the people, and she's seen a difference in them. And she heard that people were coming from America and all across the world to serve. And she's like, wait, well, I should be doing that too. So she came on this volunteer trip with us, and she was serving and getting involved in her community, and she wanted to study the Bible at the end of it. But it was so cool to see her heart to want to serve, and understanding how big that is was just amazing to see, like how she got after it, and just to see how the church is just, it was really great and really inspiring, because I think a lot of the times we like to have these perfect little plans in place, like if we just do this, or if we just reach out to this person, everything will happen. But as long as we're doing it with the right heart, any piece that we do is important and can be a way for God to move. And speaking of which, that leads us into what we're going to talk about today, which is what? Who knows? What are we going to be talking about the next couple of Wednesdays? Ruth, right? It would seem at first, right, like, who's read Ruth? Who knows what happens in Ruth, right? I think at first it's like, oh man, well, it's just a cute little love story, but it has such huge ramifications throughout history, right? So a little bit of history thanks to Ted. Thanks, Ted. So the book of Ruth starts in the time of Judges, which is about the 11th to 12th century BC. And who knows? What's happening during the time of the Judges? Good times? Bad times. What kind of bad times? What are they doing? Not worshiping God, that's true. What else would say it? No leaders, okay. What else? Unfaithfulness, just all out rebellion. One way that time is described is everyone did what was right in their own eyes. When you're looking up commentary on Judges, that was essentially the theme of that time. And it's very similar to the time that we live in now. Everybody does what they see is right in their own eyes. So that kind of sets up the tone for Ruth. So in Ruth, it begins with a family of Elimelech moving from Bethlehem to Moab, right? So Bethlehem, and there's a famine, right? And it's interesting because Bethlehem actually means house of bread, right? So they're leaving the house of bread because there is no bread for Moab, which is the mortal enemies of the Israelites at the time, who there's like a strict Levitical law saying that, hey, you don't mess around with Moabites, you don't associate with them or whatever, but here it is, some Jews are leaving the house of bread and they're going to Moab. And it's Elimelech and his wife Naomi and their 2 sons, and the father dies, the 2 sons die, and now they're left